again, 52-51, Illinois.
Good afternoon, guys. It's Charles and Paulie from House of Hoops. Today we're here for another episode of Balls. Today I'm here with my co-host Eric Paul Goldie and two special guests. We got Mac and Maddi. How we doing today, guys?
Yeah, really good. Thanks for having us.
Welcome, ladies. So, firstly, it's been an eventful year, 2020. Now, before we get into, I guess, what's been happening with you girls, let's go into your history a bit. So, Mac, starting with yourself, you originally started playing in the US.
Yeah, so born and raised in Wisconsin. A lot of people don't know where that is, but it's right on the border of Canada, so it's really cold, lots of snow. So I grew up there playing basketball all through the high school system, and then I played Division I basketball over there. I started at the University of Wisconsin. Things didn't work out, and then I ended up transferring to the University of North Dakota. From there, I met a girl named Sam Roscoe. We were teammates, and she's from Perth. And she kind of hit me up and was like, hey, after college, you should come play in this league. And I was like, nah, I'm going to Europe. I'm going to Europe. And then after that, she kept convincing me. And then I came over here, and the plan was to go back to Europe, and I never left. So here we are.
So when you first arrived, which team did you play with?
I played for the Redbacks my first year.
Okay.
Yep. And then last year I played for Bunbury with the Slammers, and this season there's no SBL.
Yes, no, there's no. Now the Slammers, that's where actually I met you first, and Charles used to play as well.
Yep.
And Maddi, what about yourself? Tell us about your career.
So I'm from Newcastle, so 2 hours outside of Sydney. I went through the college system, went to California Polytechnic University. That didn't work out. Went to Santa Clara University in the Bay Area, graduated from there in 2016. I rode the bench for Canberra and WNBL for a season. Decided I didn't want to do that. Decided I was over basketball. And then a couple of years later, 2018, got the call from Ryan Petrick, who's now the Lynx head coach, to come play SBL for the Flames. And so, yeah, never left.
May I just say something very interesting about both of their stories? Despite having setbacks, they still were determined to succeed at achieving their dream. And I think that's a good message for people listening and kids listening. You may have a setback, but keep persisting.
Well, in saying that, what would you say was something that pushed you guys to keep going? What message would you give for other people trying to make it and they feel like they don't have that push or they're missing something?
Yeah, I think it's, you never know what your path is going to be. And like for me, I don't know if Maddi's the same, but I just always had my path. Like, I'm going to play in college, I'm going to go to the WNBL, this is what I'm going to do. But I think just over time, like realizing that your path isn't always going to be the same. And I just knew that I had a love for the game, and however, that path was going to take me, I was willing to do it. And yeah, now I've just realized that I'm able to not only play the game, but also teach the game, which is one of my biggest passions at the moment. So, yeah.
Well, just coming in on that, you actually run a fantastic program for young women called Her Hoops.
Yeah.
So can we just segue straight into Her Hoops and tell us a bit about Her Hoops?
Yeah, for sure. So when I came over as an import, they kind of just say, hey, coach some kids, get a little bit of money, do that. And so I think that's where it really started for me with coaching. Just after coaching a few girls, I was like, well, why isn't there, something where girls can all play together and learn from other women coaches? Because I think when I was growing up, I think my first female coach was like my last year of high school. So I just never saw any women or coaches who looked like me, and especially as a black woman, like no coaches that look like me. And so I think I just was like, let me just do something that I would have wanted when I was growing up. And I think that's really where the idea of Her Hoops came from. And then on top of that, I said, I can't do this by myself. I'm not the only one with a story. So I've been really lucky to work with some great people, and like Maddi has been awesome for me. Bringing her on, just bringing a different perspective. She keeps me in line, so that's always good. But just giving the girls a lot of different perspectives of other strong women that they can kind of aspire to be like.
The all-star cast that you had at your last tournament, I mean, if I was a young player wanting to play, there is nothing more motivational knowing that those women are there and they're accessible, they're teaching you, they're actually coaching you. So for you to assemble that amazing talent was just, it was outstanding. It was a great day. And you can actually check out all the highlights on Her Hoops Instagram.
Yep.
Fantastic, yes. Now, Maddi, with the big upset with 2020 and everything being delayed, what do you think is going to happen with the 2021 season and whatnot? Because, I mean, it's scheduled to go ahead with, you're currently playing, but, I mean, do you think it's going to go all the way through?
The WNBL season?
Yes,
Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think, I don't know, there are lots of options, whether it goes ahead or not. It's up in the air. I know netball's gone ahead. That's really promising. There are options for a bubble, which for women's sport is very, very difficult. I don't know, as men, if you understand, like most women in the WNBL work. So we're all kind of training as if it will go ahead with hopes of Victoria get it under control, but we'll see.
Now, speak on that. Why do women why are they not able to play sports full time?
We don't get paid enough. You know, we don't get paid what the men get paid. So in the NBL, the minimum wage for a development player, so this is someone who is young, who doesn't suit up most of the time, who doesn't travel, is $17,500. The minimum wage for a regular player, a contracted player who is traveling every weekend, who has to be at every practice in the WNBL, is $13,500.
No.
So my younger cousin is a DP for the Bullets. He will never travel. He is 20, I think, and his minimum wage is much higher than grown women in our team. So,
but you're starting to see sponsors getting behind women's sports, and the viewership and the audience is there. So it's just not flying through to women, obviously.
I think netball's done a really good job with viewership, and they've done a great job with sponsorship. And because the WNBL has been around for so long and was one of the leading women's sports in the country, they kind of took a back seat and rested on the fact that the league was so good, and we've fallen behind in terms of sponsorship, in terms of viewership.
No, netball has done a phenomenal job. Now, speaking on another issue. Coming from America and being African American, I mean, you've probably got a lot of family back home, and it's a scary time at the moment with just, I guess it's always been there, but now it's actually starting to be filmed with incidents like Breonna Taylor and of course George Floyd. What can people in Australia do to make sure they understand the issue and maybe support it correctly?
I think first it's important, like you said, to say that it's not just happening now. It is being filmed, and we're lucky to be in a social media era. So people are finally being aware of this. And again, it's not also just in America, it is happening here as well, which is also important to acknowledge.
With the Indigenous community,
but as a black woman, it's been a really tough time, actually, like taking a toll mentally, and I think that's something that people don't realize as well. It's not just because you might not know somebody. Like for me, it could be my dad, it could be my brother, it could be my cousin, it could be my friend. So I think just taking that perspective, it's just understanding that black people aren't necessarily okay at this time. And I think as a non-black person, just educate yourself, like just be aware of what's going on, know that people handle it differently. And I think one thing for me is it's really important to kind of use this platform that I do have. And it was really at the beginning, and this is a story about Maddi. So she asked me, she was like, hey, do you want to talk to the girls about this? And I was like, no, don't want to. She was like, we're educators, and I think something about Her Hoops is it's not just about basketball. It's about so much more than that, and growing these girls as women, and having a space where they feel comfortable talking and understanding and learning. And once Maddi put it to me that way, I was like, yeah, let's do it. And so we actually had an open conversation with the girls. And, the girls were so young and they still were hurt by it, and I think that's just important to know that racism is taught. We're not born racist, and I think just by the reactions of our girls, they were all hurt, no matter if it was a black kid or a kid from New Zealand or a kid from Australia, a white kid, so everybody was hurt. So I think it's just important, for them to have role models who are black and know that black lives are important and know that it's not okay what's happening to black people in America or here in Australia. Yeah, absolutely. So I think just really understanding that's what people can do, is learn about it. Listen, learn, kind of take a back seat if you're not a black person. Learn from black people.
Yeah, we don't need to be the voice all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't have to, feel like you need to go ask your black friend, what can I do? There's Google, educate yourself, follow some people on Instagram. So I think that's what I would say the most important thing is, just educate yourself and just try and fix yourself and hold your friends and family accountable for their actions.
Yes. Now, I don't want to touch on this too much longer, but I mean, have you experienced much racism throughout your sporting career?
Oh gosh. No, I think there's also colorism, right? So as a light-skinned African American, I would experience less than somebody who's darker skinned than me. So there's a whole bunch of different levels that people don't understand. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so explain why that, if possible.
Because if you think about what people think is good, it's being white, right? So that's the standard. So if my skin color is closer to being white, or my hair is closer to being fine, or my curls aren't as, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like other ways to kind of hold black people down. And so for me, I went to a school in North Dakota, which I don't know if you know anything about North Dakota, but there's absolutely no black people unless you're on the basketball team or the football team. So I think for me, what was really daunting was being in a classroom and I'd be the only black person in there, or I'd be trying to find somebody like, oh, hey, there's a football player, I'm gonna go sit next to him, like he knows what's up. And another thing too is I think I haven't really, been, I guess, exposed to as much open racism. Now I have, but I think not as much, but I think it's just the slight racisms, the kind of things that people don't necessarily like, oh, can I touch your hair? Yeah. Or, just stuff like that where people don't realize that that's racist, or just saying, hey, you talk white, or you act white, stuff. So that's the kind of stuff that I would experience because I'm well educated, or because my hair looks a certain way. So I think it's important to realize that racism isn't just calling somebody the N-word. You know what I mean? There's different levels to racism, but when it comes down to it, it's all racism. Maddi, sorry, I was going to actually ask you, being over to the US, have you seen that sort of...
I mean, I think in the US and here it's different. I know that in Australia, there is that sense of American superiority, and so my partner's black and light skin, and as soon as she speaks, there's this, oh, you're American, so you're okay. And there's, I think when you're in the basketball environment, maybe the way that Australians interact with black people from the US is a little different than the way they interact with, say, Sudanese groups of people in Melbourne, or African immigrants. So there is that colorism, but also the American get out of jail free card in certain circles in Australia, but doesn't apply when you're there back home. But
no, absolutely. Now, Charles,
touching on the subject, I also want to hear your opinion on the racism going on here in Australia, and if you've seen or heard of any experiences that happened here in Australia.
Yeah, so I'm Indigenous and I'm white passing, and so that's a complex identity with that, white privilege. My sister, full-blood sister, is not maybe ethnically ambiguous, and so went through life in a very different way. Still, the class privilege and the privilege of that education, but the way that Indigenous people have been treated in this country and are still treated in this country has been ignored for so long, and we're finally waking up to it. And it's taken the US and it's taken the work of Black Lives Matter to bring that attention to it. But even now that we've been talking about deaths in custody and all the marches on deaths in custody, and there's still deaths in custody. I think last week a guy died in WA custody. So there's still so much work to be done here as well as in the States.
Well, it's not just to do with the justice system. I think it needs to be it's a much larger issue because we are not providing the support that's required. We need involvement, investment in these communities, and I mean, being proud of the Aboriginal culture as the front of Australia's like sort of identity, I don't think there could be anything better. When you see the Kiwis on the football field, they're doing the haka. Why aren't we doing an Aboriginal war dance?
Because we don't have Aboriginal war dances, and that's one of the things that the New Zealanders, when they have the Māori anthem, is because they were a warring people, right? And so when the English came to to Australia, when Aboriginal people aren't warring people, they didn't fight back. They said, "Cool, come share," and so that's why Aboriginal people fared honestly worse than probably any Indigenous group in the world.
There's never been a treaty. There's no treaty. There's a sorry, which isn't really sufficient, but and also throwing money at an issue isn't going to solve the problem. You need to actually spend time building up the community, and we need to have the original structures back, I think, where you've got the elders actually and involve the rest of the community, because it's such a rich culture. Tell me a civilization that lasted for 40,000 years. The Romans lasted only for 1,000.
No.
It's, Americans have only been around for 200. They were around for 40,000, so but are you aware of Adam Desmond and the Benar sports team?
Yeah, so Adam is amazing and such an amazing advocate for a group of kids. Started just driving kids to a basketball game, and now is just providing so much for a group of kids. And one of the reasons they're successful is that it's about the kids. It's not about him trying to provide a service and look what we did for the Aboriginal kids. It's about the kids, and I think that's the way it should be.
If you go to his feed, he's doing food drops. He's sewing up uniforms late at night. He's
homework nights.
Now, going into that, what are some of the things that you do with her hoops behind the scenes for the girls? Because
real quick, interject. You're way off the mic. I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. What are some of the things that you do behind the scenes for her hoops that maybe people don't see to prepare and whatnot?
Yeah, and I think just what you were saying about Adam, like, it's about the kids. Like, it's not about me or like what I'm doing. Like, yes, I do a lot, but I just want to give, what I would have wanted, for these kids. And yes, we go to their basketball games. Yes, we, talk to, we just do that stuff, but it's not for a different
I notice there's a lot of parents that actually come down and love chatting with you or love watching and seeing the development of their child.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, and I think why we've been able to be successful is because we do just care about the kids, and we're not going to be billionaires. Like, we're female athletes. We know that we're not going to be billionaires like doing this, but at the same time, it's because this is what we're passionate about. And I think I'd rather, as a young girl, like, have a coach that's passionate about me and passionate about women and passionate about black people and passionate about the LGBTQ community.
Yes.
So just seeing a lot of minorities, but saying, hey, look, like, yes, she's a professional basketball player, but she can also be a business owner. She can also be a mentor. I can be whatever I want to be. And like this Maddi said this like awesome quote, and it's, you can't be what you can't see. And I think that's really like what I've adopted for her hoops. And like, we just want to put it out there, for all girls to be able to see, like, hey, like, I'm this way, I'm a little bit different, I'm a woman, I'm whatever, but I can still accomplish what I want to accomplish.
Yeah, I do a lot of coaching all over the place, and one of the reasons I love working with Mac is because it is all about them. Like, she'll text me like at 11 o'clock at night, like, do you think they'll like this? I know, and I love it, and it's all about them, and just watching the way the young girls like respond to that and see her as someone as more than a coach is just, it's awesome.
Well, on that, sorry, go Charles.
Within I'd say the last 5 years. We've had her hoops. There's House of Hoops. There's Coach Glossop.
Be the student, everything.
What do you think is something that can impact the basketball culture within Australia or Western Australia specifically? Because 5 years ago, I know none of us were here. Like, all the stuff we have going on right now are essentially helping the kids coming up and being better upcoming prospects or whatever. Like, what do you think is something that's going to potentially keep this thing growing and growing?
That's a good question. I think a lot of, I guess, the kids now, like, their goal is to get to America. But like, why? You know what I mean? Not in a bad way, like, I love my experience, but why can't kids aspire to get to a higher level like here?
Yes.
And I think that's the next step for Australian basketball, because there are a lot of pathways that people are creating to get to America. And being American, this probably sounds weird, but like, you want to make kids want to play for, you know, where they are and something that they're proud of. And I think if we could kind of, I don't know, like some type of maybe a college system here, or I don't know, you know, like just something like that to elevate the Australian game so kids can feel like, hey, you know, like I went to Her Hoops or I went to House of Hoops here, like why can't I stay in Australia and, you know, take it to the next level? I think, I think it's obviously, like you said, like the last 5 years we've progressed so much, but I think maybe something like that would be cool. Obviously that's just an opinion, but I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think the idea of an Australian college system and having them be able to get an education and be rewarded for their excellence in sport in the way that the US does it as a pathway to the WNBL, or just like in and of itself, I think that's where it probably is.
Yeah. So let me know if you want to start a university or something.
I think that's something we should talk about.
Okay.
Well, we're going to finish up very shortly, but just before we go, we'd like to ask people, how can they find Her Hoops online?
Yeah, so we have Instagram. I'd say that's probably one of our biggest ways. So at Her Hoops AU. We also have a Facebook page that's more so for the parents. I know the kids are mostly on Instagram, so that's for my parents
hit up
out
Facebook, Her Hoops, and you can check out Mac and Maddie and their amazing program. Now, before we go, ladies, sorry, Charles.
Just because we're also talking to coaches, we're also talking to athletes here,
Yes.
talking to stars here. So speaking of you guys as a player, what would you say was your greatest highlight of your career so far? Favorite play?
Play.
That's
play.
Okay. I guess highlight of my career, like I was saying earlier, I was like WNBA or bust, like I was going to the league, like that was me. But I think my probably junior, senior year of college, I was like, ooh, maybe not. But I wanted to play professionally. So I think my senior year, going up into that and preparing to play professionally and finally like getting a job, because I graduated and then I waited about 9 months and no call. And then finally I got one call, and it was the Perth Redbacks. And I finally got a gig. So I'd probably say that was my highlight, because it was always my dream to play overseas, play professionally. I guess a play, I'll have to come back to me on that.
There was an ankle twister you did last.
Oh, yeah, that was pretty
broke
good.
some girls' ankles.
Yeah, that was at Lakes. Shout out to Lakeside. Yeah. They beat us. They actually blew us out that game, but we were up by 15 in the first quarter, and I did like a double hezzy, and I the girl stuttered it. Yeah, that was nasty. Yeah, Paulie got that on video. Yeah,
that was brilliant.
So shout out to Lakeside.
Yes.
Highlight of my career, I went to like a little mid-major college, and my senior year we beat Stanford at Maples Pavilion, which doesn't happen very often. You know, they walked into it thinking they were going to roll over us, which fair enough, and so that was really cool. Yeah, not a lot of people can say they did that.
That's
we didn't win that many other games after that, but yeah.
And greatest play?
Look, I'm not in the business of breaking ankles, so I can't really compete.
Oh, well, one time we played against Maddi, and she had like 8 blocks against us.
Oh, yeah.
Don't forget that. That was bogus. But.
Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on the show. Appreciate you guys coming down. Eric, I don't know if you got anything to say. Yeah,
I was just going to ask the guests, is there anything you'd like to say before to the audience before we go? Any shout-outs or any thank yous, any call to actions?
I guess just thank you to everybody who's believed in myself, other coaches who are all professional women's players who have just believed in me and believed in my vision, who have, kind of jumped on board with this. My partner, JJ, you're amazing. So just, she's like really the back. She's going to be so mad that I said this. She's been super supportive, and I think I'm just really lucky, with my community and my family that I've built here in WA, being so far away from home. So just thank you to everybody who's allowed me to get to where I am.
No, if you're in Victoria, put a mask on, because I really want to play till the end of the season. That's all I got.
Alright guys, stay tuned for the next show. And Me and Mac will be talking about university.
University.
I've just got to say, be sure to subscribe to the Balls a radio show.
Balls.au.
Produced by House of Hoops, so Charles is running House of Hoops there. We'd also like to say, make sure you check out DRN1, subscribe to their channel, where we've also got iRogue HD, a tech show.
Yes, a tech show. And also a special shout out to our man behind the board. We got Dan over here. Appreciate you for sorting us out.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, thanks everyone.
And we're out.
Under 4 left, the barn is alive again. 52-51, Illinois.